April 18, 1944, 22,000 feet above Lorraine, France. The sky is black velvet, split only by white-hot veins of flak bursting in the dark. Through the thunder of the night, the Northrop P-61, Black Widow, hums like a predator. Her twin Pratt & Whitney engines beat against the cold air, their rhythmic growl muffled inside the cockpit where First Lieutenant Robert Hawk Ellison tightens his grip on the control yoke. "Contact bearing 115, 5 miles out," crackles the voice of Sergeant Leo Marsh, the radar operator seated behind him. The scope glows an eerie green in the darkness. It's moving fast, probably a Ju-88. Ellison nods, though Marsh can't see it. His oxygen mask hides the hint of a grin. "Let's go hunting, then." Below them, the ground is alive. Rivers of light tracing convoys, burning villages, and the thunderous rhythm of artillery. The Nighthawk slides into a shallow dive, black paint glistening under the moonlight. The 420 Hispano cannons under her belly are loaded, the dorsal turret ready to bite. Then boom! A wall of flak erupts ahead, black clouds peppered with orange. The cockpit jolts. Shrapnel clatters against the fuselage like hail. Ellison banks right, feeling the wings groan in protest. He's danced through flak before, but not this thick, not this wild. Marsh's voice rises, strained. "They've got our number, Bob. You're flying straight through a box barrage." The Black Widow rolls again, dropping altitude fast. Searchlights sweep the clouds below, white spears stabbing upward, trying to catch the invisible hunter. The P-61 dives through them, shadows slicing across its wings. Then, as if the night itself bites back, a direct hit finds home. A flash brighter than lightning. The right engine erupts into fire. The aircraft lurches violently, throwing Ellison against his harness. Warning lights explode across the dash. The cockpit floods with the smell of burning oil. "Starboard engine's gone," Marsh shouts. Ellison's knuckles whiten on the yoke. Feathering prop, hold on. He struggles to keep the Nighthawk level, the control surfaces fighting him like wild animals. The right wing dips, pulling into a death spiral. Outside, the once silent night has turned into a hellish carnival. Searchlights locking on, tracers arcing past, the burning engine casting ghostly reflections across the canopy. The Black Widow, the hunter of the night skis, is now the hunted. Below, fields of northern France stretch endlessly, a patchwork of darkness and faint firelight. The ground rushes closer as Ellison battles the yoke. "Mayday, mayday, this is Widow 25, hit by flak over Nancy sector, losing altitude." The transmission crackles out into static. The left engine howls, straining under the weight of failure. The altimeter needle spins. Ellison steals a glance to his right. The nacelle is a torch. Sheets of flame lick along the wing route. He can feel the heat now, smell the smoke, hear the slow, metallic scream of a dying aircraft. But he won't bail, not yet, not while he still has a chance to land her. Marsh leans forward, voice breaking through the intercom. "We've got to jump, Bob, she's not gonna hold." Ellison doesn't answer. He's staring at the faint lights below, a clearing, maybe a field. His pulse hammers in his ears. "Not yet," he mutters. "Not until I say so." The flak batteries below reload, and the night prepares to strike again. Into the inferno. The night explodes again. A second burst of flak tears open the darkness, closer this time, so close that Ellison feels the shockwave slam through the cockpit. A rain of shrapnel clinks off the canopy, one fragment slicing clean through the right wing. The aircraft shudders violently. "Bob, we're leaking fuel, pressure's dropping fast." Marsh's voice is ragged, each word fighting the G-forces pulling him back into his seat. The radar scope flickers and dies, plunging the rear cockpit into near-total blackness. Only the red glow of the warning lights remains, flickering like candles in a storm. Ellison's breath fogs up the inside of his mask. "I see it. Left engine's overheating, damn it, she's gonna blow if I can't." He doesn't finish. Another hit slams the fuselage. A sound like tearing metal screams through the cabin. The P-61 rolls uncontrollably, corkscrewing through the cloud cover. The horizon becomes a blur of black and orange. "Brace!" Ellison yells. The Nighthawk bursts through the lower clouds, spinning. The night opens below them, patches of farmland, rivers gleaming faintly in moonlight, the sharp glow of anti-aircraft emplacements still spitting tracer fire skyward. The burning engine throws sparks across the fuselage like a comet's tail. Marsh is shouting something over the intercom, his words lost in the roar. Ellison's entire world has narrowed to the trembling yoke in his hands and the dancing needles on his instruments. Altitude 9,000 feet. Airspeed dropping. Hydraulic pressure gone. He fights the spin with everything he has. Feathering the prop, rudder full left, stick forward then back. The Nighthawk lurches, groans, and miraculously levels out. For a moment, she's flying again, wounded but alive. Marsh exhales sharply. "You did it, you crazy son of a..." "Save it," Ellison cuts in. "We're still too high to bail. I'll try to glide her west. Friendly lines aren't far." But even as he says it, the instruments tell a different story. Oil pressure 0, fuel leaking fast. The fire has spread along the nacelle, and flames are licking toward the fuselage. The once mighty night fighter is coming apart midair. From the ground, French villagers will later recall seeing a burning aircraft limping across the night sky, its wings glowing like molten steel, its silhouette framed by streaks of tracer fire. Some say it looked like a wounded bird struggling to stay aloft. Others swear they saw 2 tiny parachutes open just before the plane vanished behind the tree line. Inside the cockpit, the heat becomes unbearable. Smoke curls under Ellison's goggles. The canopy glass begins to fog with soot. His vision narrows, consciousness slipping under the weight of adrenaline and carbon monoxide. Marsh's voice breaks through again, more urgent than ever. "We've got to go, now, Bob." Ellison hesitates only a heartbeat, then he nods, voice hoarse. "All right on 3. He pulls the canopy release. The cockpit explodes with wind and firelight. The roar is deafening. Marsh is already climbing out, disappearing into the night. Ellison takes one last look at the glowing gauges, the dying aircraft he once trusted more than anything on Earth, and then he throws himself into the black. The air tears at him. The world is noise and light and gravity. He counts 1, 2, 3, then pulls the ripcord. The parachute snaps open with a violent jolt. Above him, the P-61 Black Widow continues its descent, wings shearing off. Flames carving a trail through the dark until it meets the earth with a blinding flash. The shockwave ripples through the quiet fields of Lorraine. And then only silence. Ellison drifts down slowly, the burning wreck far below lighting his descent like a funeral pyre. The ground below. The wind whips past Ellison's ears as he descends, his parachute billowing above him like a ghost against the smoky sky. He can still feel the heat from the explosion rising from below, a burning monument to the Nighthawk that had once been his shield and sword in the night. The ground races closer. He braces, legs bent, eyes straining to pick out a landing spot in the darkness. Then impact. His boots slam into damp earth. He tumbles through a plowed field, the parachute collapsing around him in a tangled heap. For a moment, there's nothing but the sound of his own heartbeat and the crackling fire in the distance. Ellison tears off his oxygen mask, gasping for the cold French air. It smells of mud, smoke, and cordite. The night sky above him pulses orange where his aircraft burns, a fiery wound in the clouds. He stumbles to his feet, yanking free of the tangled cords. Somewhere nearby, he hears the faint echo of shouting, German voices. "Marsh!" Ellison's eyes snap toward the sound. He crouches low, heart pounding, and begins to move through the field. The crops whisper against his flight suit as he runs, staying crouched, moving toward the faint shape of a figure in the distance. The moonlight catches on a parachute canopy draped over a hedgerow. "Leo," he whispers harshly. A groan answers him. Ellison rushes forward, dropping to his knees beside the radar operator. Marsh lies on his back, breathing hard, one leg twisted at an unnatural angle. His helmet is gone, blood streaking the side of his face. "Damn chute opened late," Marsh grits out, trying to sit up. "Where's the bird?" Ellison glances over his shoulder. "Gone. She went down a few hundred yards east. Germans are already on their way." He helps Marsh to his feet, slinging the man's arm over his shoulder. "Come on, we've got to move. There's forest cover ahead. We can't let them take us." They limp across the field, each step punctuated by the distant thump of approaching boots and the guttural bark of orders in German. Searchlights sweep across the landscape, cutting wide arcs of white through the haze. Dogs begin to bark in the distance. They reach the tree line just as the first truck engines rumble over the rise. Ellison drags Marsh behind a fallen log, both men freezing as a spotlight passes dangerously close. The beam catches the glint of their parachute fabric lying torn in the field, but misses them by inches. A moment later, the sound of German soldiers shouting fills the air. Ellison risks a glance through the leaves. He sees them clustered around the flaming wreckage of the Nighthawk. One of the officers gestures toward the flames, another kicks at a twisted engine cowling. Then a sound cuts through the night, a single gunshot. Ellison stiffens. Marsh's eyes meet his, fear glinting in the dim light. "They found someone," Marsh whispers. But Ellison knows better. There was no second shoot. The shot wasn't for a man. It was mercy for the dying machine. They lie there motionless as the search continues. Minutes stretch into an eternity. Eventually, the trucks depart, their lights fading down a distant road. Only the burning Nighthawk remains, its skeletal frame glowing faintly through the smoke. Ellison finally exhales. "We move at dawn," he mutters. Marsh nods weakly, and until then. Ellison stares through the trees toward the wreckage, his plane, his mission, his partner in the sky. "We stay alive," he says quietly. "That's our new mission." He leans back against the cold earth, closing his eyes as the fire crackles in the distance. Above them, the stars return, sharp and silent, indifferent witnesses to the fall of men and machines. The escape through the woods. The hours crawl by in uneasy silence. The fire from the wreck has burned down to embers now, leaving behind a faint orange glow on the horizon. Somewhere out there, the Germans are still searching, their dogs barking, their trucks idling on country roads. But here, in the damp stillness of the forest, Ellison and Marsh breathe like hunted men. When the first grey light of dawn bleeds into the treetops, Ellison checks his watch, 05:17. He touches Marsh's shoulder. Time to move. Marsh groans as Ellison helps him stand. His injured leg drags with every step, but he clenches his jaw and keeps going. The forest floor is slick with dew, the air thick with the smell of pine and smoke. They move slowly, using the trees as cover. Each time an engine rumbles in the distance, they freeze. Each bird cry feels like an alarm. Ellison keeps his eyes fixed west, toward the faint line of hills that mark the direction of Allied territory. After an hour, they reach a dirt road lined with poplar trees. A weathered wooden sign reads Nancy, 14 km. Marsh chuckles dryly. 14 clicks to Nancy, think we can hitch a ride. Ellison smirks faintly. Only if you speak fluent German. They wait until a German patrol truck passes, then dart across the road and into another field. The land here is quiet, farmhouses in the distance, smoke rising gently from chimneys. Somewhere, a rooster crows. It's easy to forget, for a heartbeat, that the world is at war. But that illusion breaks when they hear boots on gravel. Voices, close. Ellison pushes Marsh into a ditch just as two German soldiers appear at the edge of the field. They're young, barely 20, rifles slung over their shoulders, laughing about something Ellison can't understand. One of them carries a cigarette dangling from his lip, the other hums a tune. They stop just meters away from the ditch. Marsh holds his breath. A bead of sweat rolls down Ellison's temple. The cigarette burns low. The soldier flicks it away, and it lands almost at Ellison's boot. For a moment, everything stops. Then a shout, "Halt!" Ellison's instincts take over. He swings his arm up, yanking his service pistol from its holster. Two shots, sharp, deafening in the morning air. The first German drops instantly. The second stumbles backward, firing wildly as he falls. Marsh scrambles up, grabbing the fallen rifle. "You just woke the whole damn countryside," he gasps. "I know," Ellison says, already pulling him toward the woods. "So let's not stick around." They vanish into the trees as more shouting erupts behind them, distant, angry, confused. Dogs bark again. The chase has begun. For hours they move without rest. Through thickets, across streams, over fences and hedgerows. The sun climbs high, baking the mud on their flight suits. Ellison's uniform is torn, his face streaked with soot. Marsh's limp grows worse, but he refuses to stop. At last, near mid-afternoon, they stumble upon a small stone cottage hidden in a hollow. Laundry hangs limp on a line outside. No soldiers, no vehicles, just silence. Ellison hesitates, then knocks softly on the door. After a pause, it creaks open, revealing an elderly French woman, her eyes wide with fear and disbelief. She takes in their uniforms, the dirt, the desperation. Then, wordlessly, she steps aside. Inside, the air smells of bread and wood smoke. She motions for them to sit, pressing a finger to her lips. "Anglais," she whispers. Ellison nods. "American, shot down last night." The woman's expression softens. She crosses herself, then says quietly, "The Maquis can help, but you must not stay here long." Outside, the faint rumble of engines echoes once again through the hills. The hunt has not ended, only changed shape. Ellison exchanges a glance with Marsh. "Then we'll move at night," he says, just like before. The Black Widow may be gone, but her crew still flies, this time on foot, through enemy land. The Maquis and the message. Night falls again over the hills of Lorraine. A thin fog coils between the trees, silver under the rising moon. Inside the cottage, the single oil lamp burns low. Ellison sits by the small window, watching for headlights, his Colt resting across his knee. Marsh lies on a makeshift cot, his injured leg splintered with a broom handle and torn linen. The old woman, Madame Fournier, she told them in a whisper, moves quietly through the room, preparing something on the stove. The smell of onions and broth fills the air, a strange comfort in a world that has none left. She looks at Ellison. The Germans are searching the forests, she says in broken English. They say 2 Americans were seen parachuting. Ellison nods grimly, then they know we're alive. Fournier glances toward the door, lowering her voice. A man will come tonight. He can take you to the Maquisards, the resistance. You must trust him. Hours pass in tense silence. Each minute stretches like wire. Then near midnight there's a soft knock, 3 short taps too long. Fournier rises, nods once to Ellison, and opens the door. A man steps in tall, lean, wrapped in a dark coat. His eyes, hard and sharp, scan the room. He speaks French to Fournier, then turns to Ellison. I am Luc Moreau, he says in accented English. You are the crew from the American night fighter, yes? Ellison straightens. Lieutenant Robert Ellison, and this is Sergeant Marsh. We were hit by Flak outside Nancy. Moreau nods curtly. You are lucky. The Germans are combing the area. Come, we move now. They leave the cottage behind, slipping once more into the forest. Marsh leans heavily on Ellison, his breath ragged with pain. Moreau leads them through narrow paths only locals could know, across creeks, under stone bridges, through meadows where the grass whispers like the sea. At last they reach a hidden farmstead. A small barn door opens from the inside, revealing 2 men and a woman, French resistance fighters, armed and alert. One of them wears a faded RAF flight jacket. The woman carries a Sten gun across her chest. Moreau gestures toward them. This is Captain Duval's cell. They will help you reach the Allied lines. But first, there is something you can do for us. Ellison frowns. We're not exactly in fighting shape. The woman steps forward. Not fight, she says softly. Listen. From a drawer she pulls a map, creased, marked with pins and circles. Tomorrow night the Germans will move a train of ammunition from Nancy to Metz. If you tell your headquarters they can bomb it. She meets Ellison's eyes. We have no radio that can reach England, but you, Lieutenant, you might. Ellison hesitates, then unzips his flight jacket. From an inner pocket he pulls out a small emergency transmitter, the kind meant for downed pilots. Short range, but it might work if we find high ground. Moreau nods approvingly, then we climb before dawn. The rest of the night passes in anxious preparation. Marsh helps tune the transmitter, while Moreau's people gather what little food and fuel they have. Outside, distant artillery thunders across the horizon, reminders of a front line inching ever closer. At first light, the small group moves out again. They climb through fog-draped hills until they reach a rocky ridge overlooking the valley. Below, thin trails of smoke mark the path of the German supply trains. Ellison sets up the transmitter, adjusting the dials with practiced precision. The unit hums to life, faint static filling the air. Come on, he mutters. Come on. Then a voice crackles through. This is Allied Forward Command. Identify yourself. Ellison exhales a laugh of disbelief. This is Lieutenant Ellison, 422nd Night Fighter Squadron, down near Nancy with 1 crewman. We have intel from local resistance. Enemy munitions train moving east to Metz, coordinates to follow. He transmits the data, repeating it twice before the signal fades. When he lowers the mic, the resistance fighters are staring at him, hope flickering in their tired faces. Moreau smiles faintly. You have just signed that train's death warrant. Ellison nods, though his gaze drifts to the horizon. The sun has risen gold on the dew, soft on the smoke trails of war. No, he says quietly, just doing our job. Widow 25 is still on the hunt. For a long moment, no one speaks. Then, far to the west, the distant drone